Welcome in this video tutorial from 3D Studio Max 2010. This is a tutorial where I show you some types and tricks of 3D Studio Max and some new features of 3D Studio Max 2010. For example, in 3D Studio Max 2010 you can find a different interface and you can customize all your interface. My interface now is very different from the typical or the standards version because I change color from customize user interface color. I can give another color from all parts this element. For example, my favorite, I change the intensity of grid because I think it's very important. Another color for grid because this white is very, or light gray is very strong for your eyes. And I change all parts in, for example, in the rollout or in quads menu. You can create quads menu with custom, for example, for take some elements and put in this quad, this part, or you can in advanced option you can change, for example, opacity or color in your and set with startup with the favorite color for your quads menu. I change this is because I prefer. Another is in keyboard, for example. I create the little shortcuts for show track bar tools with Alt plus 7. I can hide and show this bar. This is very quick. For example, you can hide the menu toolbars with Alt 7. Alt 6 and Alt 7 for here. You can have more space for working on your project. Because I do it because, for example, for the standard version you can find this bar, and this bar here. This is the okay. This is very great for and take more space for your area for work here. This is the graphic tools modeling, or the same name is ribbon. You can find some tools for working from tools from Polybus plugins. For example, if you create typical geometry, for example a box, and convert to editable to poly or mesh, you can see very well. You can find here some tools for working with it. For example, for generate topology and open a different windows dialog windows. You can, for example, create a plane. Okay. Sorry, one moment. Okay. And you can, for example, create a procedural mapping, but is in geometry mapping. For example, you can select this and apply brick, and so I can create, for example, the insert by polygon, okay, and a little and extrude, and you can see I can create a geometry with brick. Is very important when you can modeling all parts in 3D Studio Max. Or for example, you can change direction of your mesh, for example, with angle. You can change for difference, or have difference effect. Okay, this is very important, but it's only one tools inside the UI. And for example, more important is the free transform. I find very for free form in Paint, because now is very good Paint or Schwitz. This is not the same of, for example, Madbox or ZBrush, but is very near these tools from this that software. In the last version I have, and you can find also here, you can find Paint deformation. It's the same you can find here, but it's very good now. In the past is very difficult to use these tools for have a good result in 3D Studio Max. Okay. But is, or for example, the topology, retopology, you can create, okay, take this surface, you can on surface, they choose on surface, and when, oops, shape, okay, topology, pick, take, okay, plane. Now when you can drawing and you mesh without more polygon. This is the retropology of you can find in Polyboost or ZBrush or Madbox, for example. You can recreate another mesh, or you can do a stripe on this mesh. You can draw in with very easily on it for give more details, for example, or surface or bracket. You can change the dimension from here. Okay, it's very fine for working. It's very good. Okay, but this operation is not very used more in 3D Studio Max, so you can hide this from here or from here, or you can put, for example, in your custom, you can if you press, for example, Ctrl and Shift and click the right bottom of the mouse, you can open your custom quad. You can show here, for example, in extra graphic modeling tools. Okay, it's very nice. Types from I use when modeling, and I use this version of 3D Studio Max 2010. For example, when you want to create the rail, for example, of the stairs, we can create, for example, a spline. This is my path, and create geometry, for example, or box or cylinder. Okay, and apply spacing tools. from my quads menu or edit or tools, align, spacing tools or shift plus E. You can choose, select the geometry and pick the path, and you can see you can apply more. Okay. Now, what's happen when you have this geometry? If you see show statistic, you have 3062 polygons. Okay. You can create a line, for example in front view, and give the properties from the line, rendering, enable in viewport, and enable in render. You can choose the radial section or rectangular, for example radial. I can take the pivot and path in another point, but is for this example is not very important. Okay, pick the path. Apply. Okay. Now see your polygon. Now 0. You can use the spline for create geometry. Geometry, for example, the rail of the stair, or the balcony, or the line for the telephone, and for the okay, 3 seconds. Okay, I open this and create clone. 3 seconds for render. Okay, we can see now with the same with geometry. With high 10, for example, and 10. Create with okay. If the 10 okay, and apply the same material. Second, but is okay. The time is very few respect of the line, but the geometry is more. Okay, this is very important. Line is very good for modeling, for change, for example, some characteristics, some shape. For example, I can do with spline this. can create a line and change in the time the shape, because I can take, for example, the vertex and move for adjustment this shape. The geometry is very is not complicated, but is not very easy for do the same operation. Okay, but the polygons is 0 with the shape in renderable. Okay, but is the time is more, because when you can render the shape, you can give more, you can take more memory RAM for give a render. In this tutorial, see some particular new features of 3D Studio Max. When you work, for example, in the another kind of software, you can see the properties of the object, of the edge of the border is open or is the normal is flipped. In 3D Studio Max 10 you can see the new features inside this X view. Face orientation, overlapping face for see the when you have two face one on one, multi-face, isolate face, and more. For example, I convert this to poly and I flip this. Okay, now I can see, because I have this face is black and is very good for see this, but maybe I can have the material is black and I can see this. If you go to Xview, face orientation, I see this face is not orientation, so I can select this poly and flip again. Now is okay. Or for example, if I delete this face, you can see this face orientation is green. I can see the open edge and see this is open. This is very good, because sometimes when you work you have more elements in your scene and you can control all, or you can see all, or maybe you can take another file, another mesh from another software, so you can see these properties. Another feature is very good, similar to the group, but is not the same, is the containers. Containers, you can find tools, containers, or you can create from customize, create the, you can see the float bar, or you can, for example, create a particular voice inside particular menu, inside my quad menu, custom menu. Okay, you can create create containers. You can apply container teapot 1, for example. You can see when you can click on containers, you can move all teapots inside it. I can load, I can create another containers and save file. You can load, you can unload containers, you can open. When you open, you can drag only this, but when you can choose, you can select this box, this icon, you can move all, or I can apply add to the containers. For example, for teapot, for example, I can can choose this teapot and add here. Okay, this is similar to the group, but the group I can click on a symbol in chain. I must click on all group, and for example group, open group for open and modify, or I can click on close detach for detach this element from all group. Okay, this is very nice tools, but sometimes it's very important to create this and for loads and for open, because it's not the same of group. For example, if you can create a particular chain and apply this, for example, I can open this main chain. This is the fire escape, and for example the bolts, it's this is the group. Okay, but I can create can select all this, and I create, for example, the containers, and for example container stairs level 1, and when I move this, I move all stairs. Okay, for this is very good elements. For example, when you have a more element in chain and you want put all inside one containers. Okay, and for see these properties, apply mental array render. Design render, mental array. Okay, and apply standard material, arc and design, Mia material, Matteo for plane, and reds. Red teapot. Okay, when you render, you can, for example, use daylight. Daylight is now, if you use more, you can check this option is very important, because create the expose control, and give mental array sun and mental array sky. Yes, physical sky. Okay, and I choose manual for can take this and move more. Okay, I don't see the shadow, for example, or the ambient occlusion. I can go on smooth plus highlight this menu and go to lighting and shadow, and go to enable hardware shading. Okay, enable shadow, and you see now the shadow when I move my sky, my sun, I see the shadow change. Another is, for example, the ambient occlusion. Here you can see here, and so you can see a particular effect from this material. It's very good. Another is width on material, but is you can find also in another version, for example in 2008 or 2009 of this 3D Studio Max. For example, you can choose brushed material and for teapots, and when you go to light, you have all lights. You can choose light shine or default, and now I see the little shortcut for heat. But very important is very in material, because now I can see the real effect on this geometry. If you go to show map and viewport, you can press, you can go on the last, you can see, one moment, you can see the real effect on material. Now it's black because the background is black, but when you move, you can see the real effect of, for example, of the specular on this object. The same, for example, if you create the pro material ceramic, you can choose porcelain. You can see the real effect on this. Okay. Okay, now give this and enable these properties. I said the light shade illumination with shine light. When you work, sometimes it's not good to see the illumination from the shine, because you can, for example, understand your mapping. For example, if you have the classic material with checker, maybe you can understand very well, because you move and this is black, is not very good for mapping. You can choose to enable this operation and use the default without shadow, without illumination, with variation from the color, and you can see a good light from all objects. You can there are a little shortcut for this. For example, you can press Ctrl and L. You can see is very good. Okay. Now see little properties of the MatEvil, new version of MatEvil in 3D Studio Max 2010. For example, when you can, we can see the show save frame. Okay, this is my render, and apply, for example, the brush material. Okay, you can go on the first. You can see now is, for example, the new control on this frame windows, render frame windows. You can control the anti-aliasing, the glossy reflection, glossy precision, and soft shadow, and final getter quality. Now we can path with a rough mode. Okay, and render. Okay, it's not very different, it's not very great, and not very time for render, but it's 4 seconds. Okay, In the tab of render setup, F10 from keyboard, you can a new rollout, global tuning parameters. Soft shadow precision multiplier is 1, and glossy reflection precision. And glossy refraction precision is very. I do some texting, and I see with these parameters is change the time. For example, in the old version, the time is very different for a few seconds. For example, this image is with 3D Studio Max 2009 is 50 minutes and 23 seconds, and in 3D Studio Max 2010 with default is 25 minutes, and with I change parameter is good image with the same setting for GI for Final Getter. Is the difference is inside, for example, in some part of where the light is occlusion, for example here, and here, and the glossy and reflection is very good, but the time is more. Why is the time is more? Because this is very important to this setting, but sometimes it's not very important to have this precision. And for example, this is another the low version with the shadow precision is 0, and this is the minimum, and the reflection and the refraction is minimum, and see the difference here and here. And for this it's good, but sometimes you can take, for example, medium or low. You can see now a difference from this render. It's not very big difference, but the time is for example 3 seconds. Okay, no 4, but it's 3 seconds. Okay, now it's 3 seconds. So the difference is more from the qualitative, but for example, if you have the chain from old Max and the render in new Max, you can understand why the time is more. You can control these parameters. Okay. Another difference or another types for good render in 3D Studio Max is with MatEvil is the you can analyze the light. So when you work with environments, you can open environment. You work with MatEvil expose control, photographic expose control. Okay. When you work, you can create the lights. You can control the white points with the Kelvin. It's a natural effect, this, because white point now is 6,050, okay, and is white. What I can go to Google, for example, and search color temperate and find, for example, this. This is the table with the Kelvin from the light. For example, for degrees Kelvin for indoor is the the color from the candle is this value, or for party clouds is this value. Okay, but is very important to change, to understand this path, because if I want create a particular illumination, I can give the white this value for white point, because you can see is the sun without clothes and hats. But for example, I can give the color with the yellow. I don't give the yellow, but I give the particular the color is light, because it's a negative function. What I do? Okay, I give 10, and with I render, my render is yellow, but in the table 10,000 is not yellow, is light. With this color is negative from here. So with these parameters you can create a good light without change the position of the sun or the particular setting in your 3D Studio Max, and forgive another light, another kind of lighting. Another is very important to use a good control from photographic expose control. This is the same of the camera, photographic camera, but it's not very the same. It's only the multiply on intensity of this render. For example, I can give a different ISO, and I see it's different. I can give a difference f-stop, it's more white. Okay, you can go a good value with this, because good lighting, because if you use good this this value, you can have a more good render. But another parameter is very important, is the highlights board, because when you use these parameters with, for example, the glade renderer, camera shader effects output, you can have a default output shader glade. The glade, what is this glade? Is a particular shader for control the glow inside your render. But this effect is not is added when you finish render, but is not take the time when renderer. But now you see is very big glow. Okay, you can control here, or maybe you can, for example, go in photographic expose control and blur, for example 0.1 renderer. Is very no light part with this effect. 0.2. Okay, and you can adjust with these parameters this effect. Another aspect very important in 3D Studio Max with MatEvil is the gamma correction. The gamma correction is you can find in customize preference and gamma and LUT value. You can use enable and you can use 2.2 for gamma, or in input output and check after color and after material. What's happened when you don't have this, for example? Okay, and okay, if I render, but I choose another camera, made render, okay, this is my render. When I print my render, maybe it's not the same when I see in render on video on my PC. When I print is very different for light, for brightness, contrast, etc. And for this gamma correction is very important for setting a good monitor. You can click on desktop, on all desktop properties, and choose in property setting and advanced. In advanced you have your for example video board. You can setting video board, or you can go to the control of your color. For good gamma correction, I use this, for example, sRGB color space profile. Is you can click on add and switch this profile. If you use another kind of computer, for example Apple or Unix system, you can choose another kind. For PC it's very okay, use this value 2.2. For example system with from Apple Mac, for example 1.8, and for Unix 1.6, for example 2.2 now. Okay, okay, see a difference. The difference is more because now is very white, but if I apply, for example, from here, from customize preference, or for example also from expose control, I find gamma setup. Okay, can I click OK, and I see render is very bright. But if I render again, render change. When you print you find a good render, but it's not only when print. The difference you can see also when you have the particular space with the where the light don't arrive, and the render is very black here. But maybe is for a good realism you can apply a good 2.2. Another effect for a good, for example, you can change this value and set the default render. Okay, a good setting for exterior, for example, is with ISO 50 and good f-stop 8, and you can this is very important to change with your chain, with your case, with is not the same for all chain, but this is the good value. Okay, enable, or okay, I can enable. Another important aspect is with the radiance of material, because in mental ray it is very important the radiance of material. When you create new material from standard, from arc and design material, you find diffuse level 1. Okay, I put this material, override all chain from processing, enable, and I put this, but is Mate material, and I give white, all white material. Another aspect difference from 3D Studio Max or another NGI render is the color is not with the scale RGB, but is the particular scale from 0 to 1 value, and you can setting 1, but is not very correct. But the real in CG, the real white is not this, is not the 250, 250, 250, but and is not 1. Is different. Is 230, 230, 230. So for know the real RGB, for example, from the list similar this, you can, for example, I will create the green bash. I will create this R value. I can take this value, for example, 2,200, and divide for 250. So the result is 0.784 is my value. So I can apply here my value, and so I find the good correspective RGB color. So for I can find a good, sorry, 2003 divide 2005 is 0.07, okay, and is very, but I can, okay, 0.07, I can put 7 is very near to gray, so I can give, for example, 8 for a good white. So okay, but this is not very the last. For example, if I render, I find some part is effect of color bleeding. Okay, some part is very white, but is important to work on diffuse level and put on 0, for example, 0.8. So this is my render. I create a copy and render. Now I see it's not very white. This part is not bored. It's not very bored. Respect this. Okay. So another way for give the adjustment of this level you can find in expose control. You can find in milestones, but this value work on all material. For example, if I have select all and I assign this material and I copy and I create, for example, color material with red and 1, color material 2, but the blue or green, okay, and 1 is blue. And I give this and this, for example, and I give 1 and 1. I enable, but I enable the override material and I render. Now I see is very white, is very green, is very blue, and red is very more this value, okay. And if I work on milestone, for example 2, and I say render, you can see this is always color, always material is changed. This is not very good for this. The same value is on saturation, for example. So you can work with this value, but is not very is correct, but is not very regular 1 on 1. And you can control all single material, so you can apply 1 or 0.8, for example, and render. Because 0.8, because it's a good value for have a good control. For example, look here, this render, and I put 1, but I change material. And I render. This is with the control on material. This is with control on material expose. It's very similar render, okay? And you can control all render with this value. More important in 3D Studio Max with MatEvil is the unit setup. Unit setup is you can find in customize unit setup. It's very important because when you work with the advanced renderer, you find more setting with the units or the divide from a unit. So you can system unit setup, and now I have inches, but it's not a problem because I can use insert for unit setup and display metric, or for example centimeters or millimeters. I use more centimeters because it's the good unit in the middle from meters and millimeters for a good control. And you can use also for generic unit and for also for light. I am in the Italian people, so I don't find very for use American, so I use international and system metric, and more time I use centimeters. But for now I don't put centimeter here because it's very important, and use the unit, the GNU unit, because inside from the version 9 of 3D Studio Max, inside the materials, arcade design material, you find a special effect with ambient occlusion and round corners. In ambient occlusion you can setting the samples, for example, and the distance for action from this. For example, you can setting the distance from here, this object, to this object, and when you know the dimension, for example in this example is very big, the dimension of this object, you can find a good render, or you can optimize more this render. Now this is the radius of 50, okay, and this is very small. We can see more, okay, double, and okay, and the distance from this object to this object or another object, you can apply with the ambient occlusion effect, and you can setting in. For example, I can give 2 samples, and I setting the distance from 0, and apply use color from another object, extract ambient occlusion. With this function, you can take the color, the difference color from this object, and render. I change color of this object, and okay, this is not this, okay, this, and white this. More important is apply ambient occlusion on all material, because without this check you can see the effect on this object and this object. You don't see the effect of ambient occlusion. See this with samples, you can with low samples you can find more noise of ambient occlusion here and here, and you can see the real distance from this object to this object. And if I put, for example, a good value is 3 and 2. 3 and 2 was here, and I render. Okay, see the difference is more because change the noise is very change, and okay, but is a few noise also because I have the setting of the render is very low. Is because is only the try render is not important to change to have more point density or more FG points for this try. And so, and see the difference now with the distance. For example, this value from here and here, this value. Okay, and I render. Okay, see, this render is very clean, and you can find a good ambient occlusion, and you can see the good difference from all the samples and the max distance. You find a good ambient occlusion. Okay, and for this is very important to use the units set up with the render. Another way for create ambient occlusion is with shader material. You can find in can create a meta ray material and give the map's ambient reflection occlusion and put, for example, value, the same value for material, and overwrite this material. And render. Okay, see render is all black because this material, this override material with meta ray is not compatible with the expose control, so you can disable expose control from environment and render. But okay, this is it's a good render, but it's not very good for ambient occlusion, because sometimes when you can uncheck this active option is you see black, so you can go on no expose control and go on light and disable, select light and disable and render. Is very similar to the also in environment, and check on use map for black, and if render you can find okay, now it's very good ambient occlusion for render. Is similar, but in same case you find it difficult for create this image because you don't find very good. The difference you can see with this image here, and because if you go on shader and change, for example, distance, you find a different render here and here. Okay, and for example 0, and I put the good is 64 samples, but you can change this because it's not very great different from 52 or 64. For example, if you use the less value, you can find not good render, a render with more noise. You can see the noise is not more, and the ambient occlusion is good.